There's a whole Chassidus, I got Asach Chassidus about the following idea. The Bachar Note from the Vidaik to Moskva. But this is in a lot of places in Chassidus. That the Gemara says, Yisrael hadorim b'chutz la'aretz. There's verschiedene Sprachen. One of them is Deime Kemisha Enli Alaka. Another one is Evdi Avodah Zarah B'Tara Heim. It's like a Gemara. That if you live outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's Deime as if Rachman Litzlan, you don't have an Eibishter. And Evdi Avodah Zarah B'Tara. So this is very strange. I mean, you have to understand, it's not always up to a person where a person should live, right? Sometimes the Eibishter puts you in a Maimon Matziv. If you want to live in Eretz Yisrael, you can't live in Eretz Yisrael. And Beklal, I don't think that Rebbe was one of those people who believed in the Fleifet in Eretz Yisrael, where you have to do what you have to do where you are. Like the Lashon, Kemaimer Machda Eretz Yisrael. Wherever you are, you have to make Eretz Yisrael. So the Maimonides Chassidus asked the question, what does this mean? That if you live outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's a Demek, Misha, and Lakah. It's as if you're worshipping idols in purity. How could idol worship be pure? Right? The Mizracheshka learned in Hilchas Avos Atumis, and the Chachamim will gaze it, and Avodah Zarah, that's an Avatumah. Finished. Right? You also learned it. I learned it. I didn't forget yet. A couple more days. But Rambam is always, I just learned it. The Rambam is, the whole Rambam is less than a year. Chavesh Galaden. Right? So how could you say Avodah Zarah B'Tara? It doesn't make any sense. So the Maimonim give a very, very good explanation, a very important explanation. Maimonim give it to Verstehen. Maimonim explain it. And what the Maimonim say is that the involvement of the Eibishter in the world has a lot of madregis. The involvement of Hashem in the world has a lot of madregis. On the highest madrege, there's Eined Milvade. Every single event the Eibishter is doing personally. It's not even Hislapshas. The world is an expression of the Eibishter. The world is an expression of Hashem. In the second madrege, the world is a place of miracles. Miracles. All the time miracles. Everything is a miracle. So there's a world, and the world is being defied. There's a teva, and the teva is being mishudad through the Eibishter's yad, the Eibishter's hand. Yeah. Then you have a third madrege where derech hateva seems to keep its own, but you see revealed hashgacha. It's not the pshat, the whole thing about the different shittas about hashgacha. The different shittas about hashgacha are not shittas about hashgacha. They're shittas about the gili of hashgacha. Whether you could see that the Eibush is mashgiach. Everything that happens, Hashem does. The shaila is, do you see how Hashem is doing it? Which really means, do you see why Hashem is doing it? Which really means, do you agree with him? If you like what the Eibishter did, the Eibishter did it. If you don't like what he did, mikle nikris, take one of his zichalei. And then there's a madrege where the hashgacha is hidden. The Eibush is the balabas over the world. And he's mashgiach v'hashgacha pratis. Every single thing happens in the world, the Eibush does b'chol rega v'rega, the Eibush creates every mitzvah. But he doesn't always create it in the kind of way that you could see the Eibishter's hand. And that's the pshat in this Gemara. In Eretz Yisrael, b'chlal, and the Yerushalayim, especially in the Beis Hamikdash, Gorgor, Andish, it's a whole nother level. Kvayachol, there's more giloy of the Eibishter's hashgach. In other words, in Eretz Yisrael, Teva exists. But that Hashem is a balabayas over Teva is easier to see. Why? Because it's Eretz HaKodesh. It's a holy land. It's a holy land. It's always a holy land. Eretz Yisrael is always holy. But in Chutz La'aretz, if you look outside of Eretz Yisrael, so there's Hashgacha. Of course, everything that happens, Hashem is doing. But you don't understand what He's doing. And you don't understand why He's doing. So it seems to you that it's all happening by itself. Mikre nikris. Everything that occurs, mikre, coincidental. It happens by mistake. It happens as if it's random. As if there's no balabayas, you understand? And I want to share with you advartere, a pshetel. But I think it's always gehalten a pshetel, yeah? How do you spell the word mikre? Mikre. Who speaks Hebrew? Anybody speak Hebrew? Allah Americana, Mem Kuf Reish. Hey! Mikre means chance, coincidence. What's the opposite of Mikre? Mikro, mit an Aleph. Right? What's it in Mikre, mit a Hey, Mikre, mit an Aleph? Vayikra el Moshe, vayikra el Akim el Bilam. Correct? The same words, same oisius. Vayikra el Akim, the Eibush that's getroffen mit Bilam. He came across him, Kvayochel. It's like an accident. Vayikra el Moshe, the Eibush that calls Moshe Rabbeinu, is with an Aleph. In other words, this is with the greatest Kvayochel, the greatest. There's nothing random about it. It's very precise. And it's the same oisius. And in Chumash you have by the Teichach Keri, right? Slach Temimim Bekeri, Af Ani Eilich Mocha Bekeri. So it says in Sfarim that this means that the Eibishter behaves Kvayochel in the kind of way where you do not see the Hashgacha Pratis, right? So now I'm going to ask you a question. There's a mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan, right? What's the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan? Besod the prat lemezumen. Shiluach HaKan only works if it's by mistake. So it says in the pasuk ki yikari kan sipir. Now, how do you spell ki yikari? Who was the chumash? Ki yikari. An accident happens, which is going to give you an opportunity to do a mitzvah that you can only do it by mistake. If you put a bird in the nest and you send it away, you're not makayim the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan. You have to find it on the road. How's it spelled ki yikari? Mit an Aleph. It's a printing mistake. Stimmt doch nicht. It should say ki yikari with a hey, because the whole meaning of that word is that it happened coincidentally, by mistake. What's the teretz? That a coincidence is not a coincidence, and a random is not random. Things that al pi halacha, even al pi halacha, are considered coincidentals, aus der Wissen, der Eibisch, that is zusammengestellt. Things that happen, that are considered random, that are considered not intentional, kvayochel, are also al pi akriya, the Eibish that did it. So this is the pshat. The Gemara says, if you live in Eretz Yisrael, it's harder to see Hashgacha. There is Hashgacha. There's always Hashgacha. It's harder to see Hashgacha. And because I see Hashgacha, it's easier to get blinded by the Derech HaTeva. In other words, to speak about the sugya that we're bringing about, which is Parnasa. Right? Sometimes Parnasa comes from Eibishter, and it's so easy to see the Eibishter. Why? Because it works out. Other times you're trying to make a Parnasa, and somehow you make a living, but he makes sure that you shouldn't think he did it. Parnasa is a funny thing, you know. There's two things you have to know about Parnasa. Number one, you have to work. Number two, you have to earn. But they're not connected. You have to work because Eibush just said, "No, you have to do something." The Eibush has to give Parnasa. But the V'rach Hashem Elokecha and the Asher Taseh don't have to be in the same place. How many people have that experience? I have that experience every day. The Chol Taseh is done. The V'rach Hashem Elokecha. You sit. You're trying to make a living over here. The Eibush is mafanis, but not according to your plan. You decided exactly with the Parnasa Betankum, and you're telling the Eibush that how the Tzinedes should be, and the Eibush says, okay, you have your cheshbonis, and I got my cheshbonis. I have a chiyuv to be mafanis you. But I don't have to be a chiyuv to be fanas you according to your cheshbonis. And then the Maisa. I think that's the Maisa. I don't know, Friedman, I don't know, maybe you're a very rich guy, you won the lottery, so you forgot about the Eibishter. But I think people who make up Parnasa the way a normal person makes up Parnasa, it means every week, Dafan Fadinen, you work and the Eibishter provides. Lav Dafka, your work and the Eibishter's provisions are together. If you don't work, you don't Parnasa. If you do work, but the Parnasa and the work are not connected. Why? Because of V'rach Hashem Elokecha. The bracha is Hashem Elokecha, not the B'chol HaShatasa. The bracha is the Eibishter. The bracha is not the B'chol. You make a keli in Parnasa, and he provides. But he puts it into a different keli. Why? What difference does it make? You did the B'chol HaShatasa, but they don't have to be connected. And I feel that there's many people like this. A lot of people like this. A lot of people do a hard of his door and it works. And you see the Eibishter. You have to pay attention. And you have to remind yourself, it's Taka Emes. When I went in yeshiva, my mashpim, my mega akta chainik, that the Eibush is the balabas over the world. And when I was in yeshiva, it was easy for the Eibush to be balabas over the world. Why? I'd rather Eibush be a balabas than my Rosh Yeshiva. I don't like him. Eibush is a balabas. And they tell you, to listen that the Eibush that told to Alice. And then you get married and you go out in what they call the real world. Eilam HaSheker, Alma de Sheker. And you find out it's true, but it's not simple. It's an emes, but it's nicht poshet. It's a nicht poshet. It's an aside. It's not an aside to make up an us. It's an aside to the Eibishter in the panas. There's the avoida to see the Eibishter. So the Chassidus says that outside of Eretz Yisrael, it's more difficult to see the Yad Hashem. That's the meaning of these Gemaras. That's why it's Betara. How could you be able to have a desire Betara? You're serving the Eibishter. And you're serving the Eibishter. But there's a condition that makes it hard for you to see how Hashem is involved in your life. So even though it's Tahir, it's Avodah Zarah. What does Avodah Zarah mean? Avodah Zarah simply means there's more than one balabas. It's better not to know what Avodah Zarah means. You know why? Because if you find out, you're going to feel terrible. If they look at the Sichas, it's a Noach Sicha. Chelik Chof Pashas Noach. There's a Sicha from the Rebbe, Medafis Lenin. It goes on the Rambam, Perek Aleph, Hilchos Avodah Zarah. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm giving you a shir and mitten Fabrengen, but that's how it is. Bechlal people say my Fabrengen is a Chatzi shir. Chatzi shir. Okay. The Rambam has an entire Perek, where he tells the history of Avodah Zarah. The Bimei Dei Renish. The third generation, Adam Rishon Zanenikal, and Adam Rishon was very much alive. And they were big chachomim. They were modern philosophers. And they started to ask questions. If you want to learn the whole story, open up an Rambam Hilchos Avodah Zarah. It's a story. It's a sipur devarim. The whole Perek is a story of how Avodah Zarah devolved. How it went from idealistic to confused to dishonest to nothing. A whole Seder Ishtalshalos. The first people who every Avodah Zarah said the Eibush was Chol HaKoved. The Eibush gave covet to the Kechli HaShamayim. Hashem gave covet to the stars. That the Eibush that arranged that the what's the lashon? The Sorei Ma'ila, the Malachim Kvayochel, are the Memutza to provide hashpah to this world. So Enosh Chavra said that the Eibush gave covet to the Malachim, which also give covet. In other words, Kavanasam Netzuya. Their idea was, why did they introduce the idea that you should give covet to somebody besides for the Eibush? Because the Eibush gives them covet. That's how it started. And with the time, they became bigger and bigger tipshim. And Baruch Hashem, there were people who were shakranim, and slowly but surely, I'm not going to tell you the whole page. You can look at inside. The Rambam describes 3 or 4 or 5 steps of Yisa Gefallen. How Avodah Zarah got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, until Avraham Avinu. And the Rambam writes, Avraham Avinu was one of them. Avraham Avinu was one of them. Achei Nigel Eison Zeh, Avraham Avinu. And then Avraham Avinu started to question. And Avraham Avinu discovered there's only one God. Eine. Nicht b'shamayim, nor b'shamayim v'aretz. He's not a große Gott and a große Welt. There's a große Gott, was reimt sich mit Kleinigkeiten. Hamakam hazeh hashani alav. And then Avraham Avinu had what's called Beis Avraham. He was madrich and mechanech and mashpia on a whole generation of Yidden. Goyim, arvim, shemishtachavim, she'avak shagabi ragleim. That they should believe in Hashem Echad, in one God. And then came Yitzchak. And Yitzchak had a whole generation of people who were called Beis Yitzchak. Goyim, who believed that the Eibush is the balabas of the world. Bashamayim v'aretz. And then came Yankov Avinu. And then Yidden went into Mitzrayim. And then it's time Golus Mitzrayim. And Golus Mitzrayim was so bad that, I forgot the lashon, almost neker kol ikar agadol hazeh. Everything Avraham Avinu brought to the world, was lost in Golus Mitzrayim, and then Moshe Rabbeinu came. Moshe took Yidden out of Mitzrayim, and he brought us to Har Sinai, and we got the Torah, Chulu. So the Rebbe has a posh to kasha. The Rambam is not a sefer of stories. The Rambam is a sefer of halachas. And any time you have in the Rambam anything but a halacha, the Rebbe is going to say, how is this a halacha? The Rebbe concedes, alerped, that the end of a halacha, especially the end of a sefer, that the Rambam puts in a little musir, a little hashkafa, what we would call deis nechonis or midas tevis, and that the Rebbe sort of accepts that this is, that when the Rambam finishes a whole sefer, he's going to bring an inyan of musir, an inyan of deis nechonis and midas tevis, which is not necessarily directly a halacha. But this is the beginning of Hilchas Avodas Zarah, it's not the end. So the Rebbe wants to know, why does the Rambam tell us a story? And the Rebbe says, you know why the Rambam tells us a story? Because if it out for this story, you wouldn't know what Avodas Zarah is. Avodas Zarah is bowing down to a stone. Really? You're that stupid? Mamish, azat tipish bist du, eitz ve'even. Like Rashi says in Chumash. The eitz ve'even is in front porch. What about the kesef ezav? Those that behalten because you have to protect the God. I worship this piece of silver, but someone's going to steal it from me. Like what I got? It says a God that you could steal. What's for I got to us? But so the Rambam explains. Avodas Zarah doesn't mean you're lying down to a stone. Avodas Zarah means something very edel. Avodas Zarah means shnius. That's all. The beginning of Avodas Zarah is the idea that not everything comes directly from the Eibishter. On one level or in one way or another way, there's more than Malabas. That's the beginning of Avodas Zarah. So the Rambam tells you the whole story because he wants you to understand the pnimius of Avodas Zarah. All the halachas of Avodas Zarah talk about what's mutter and what's asr and what you chayiv skilim, what you chayiv malchus. It's dinim, about actions, because halacha is about maaseh. So the Rambam gives you a hakdama, so you should understand that the pnimius of Avodas Zarah is the idea that there's an Eibishter, but there's places where the Eibishter Kvayochel is not directly the Balabas. That's Avodas Zarah. That's Avodas Zarah. So if you live in a world where it's hard for you to see the Eibishter's hand, it's called Avodas Zarah b'tahara. It's not your fault. You live in Chutz La'aretz. It may not be your choice. You're living in an environment, it's hard to see the hand of the Eibishter. Verstehst? So wait. So here comes the Chassidische Wort. The Chassidische Wort is Azah. This is a famous expression. And I tell like the Maaseh. Uba Hagdama. I want to give you a Hagdama, a short Hagdama, yeah? We know that the Rebbe kept a journal. Our Rebbe kept a journal, a Yuman. And he had it in his room. He wrote it in the 30s mostly, in Europe, when the Rebbe was in Europe. And the entire Yuman is the relationship between the Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe. There's nothing personal about the Rebbe's journal. He doesn't write about what he ate for breakfast and which train he rode on and what suit he bought. It's all about his connection to Frierdiker Rebbe. In America, the Yuman stops. And there's one of two explanations, and they're probably both true. Number one, the Rebbe didn't have time. And number two, Mistama, the things that the Frierdiker Rebbe shared with the Rebbe understood is better that he keeps it in the Mayach Hazikot and doesn't put it on paper. But the Yuman of the Rebbe was found and published. It's fat. The Yuman is very interesting. And there's different parts. The Rishimas are different parts. One of the parts is called Yalkut. It's called Yalkut. The Rebbe had a page, it's one page, and he calls it Yalkut. And on this one page, the Rebbe wrote down about 20 pisgamim, 20 things that the Frierdiker Rebbe said that he liked. The Rebbe made Hayem Yem. The Hayem Yem is Shin Pei Gimel Sha'arim, 383 days. It was an Ibayar. And every day he quotes a word from Frierdiker Rebbe. But the Rebbe had in his journal a page, and they printed it separately. You could see it if you have this, the Shemas HaYuman, on the back of the book, just one page or 2 pages in print, where the Rebbe wrote down, if you can use these oisias, his favorite idanim that he heard from Frierdiker Rebbe. And the following is there twice. Midachzach. But this word, he writes it twice, 2 different sources. The Frierdiker Rebbe said it more than once, and the Rebbe liked it and he wrote it down. It's a famous, everybody knows the story, but I'm making it into more because that's what Fabrengen is. That someone came to the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek. A chassid came to Tzemach Tzedek. And he said to the Tzemach Tzedek, he wants to live in Eretz Yisrael. Now, going to live in Eretz Yisrael, then you're talking a long time ago. It's more than 150 years ago, yeah. It's a very long time ago, yeah. It was very hard. It's always a midbar. There was no parnasa, there was nothing to eat. Nobody went to Eretz Yisrael, Machon al-Leben, you understand? People went to Eretz Yisrael because they were Erlich Yidden, and they knew that Yisrael is a Makam Kaddish, and there's an honor shir, halachas and gemaras and psukim about the importance of living in Eretz Yisrael. There's the end of Masechet Ksubis speaks about Eretz Yisrael, and going there before, when you're still alive, where you can enjoy Eretz Yisrael. And the Greise Yidden have gewollt leben in Eretz Yisrael, because they wanted to fill Kedushas Aretz. And of course, the bigger they are, the more sensitive they were to Kedushas Aretz, the more Eretz Yisrael was of meaning to them. So Chassid came to the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, and he said to the Tzemach Tzedek, I want to live in Eretz Yisrael. And he asked Reshus. Derech Agav, Nochamal Derech Agav, that's why I keep your attention, I changed the subject. But it zelt a Meise, mit a Yid, was a gehat a Machle, couldn't even we know his name. A chassid came to the Tzemach Tzedek, had an illness, and the doctors told him that his achas dosei. The doctors, the Gemara says nit neshut l'reifa lirfes, heinte geworden nit neshut l'reifa lenabe. And for those who don't know what lenabe means, nabe doesn't mean to say prophecy. Lenabe means to speak. Shtusim, but it ain't leaves for soyim. Lenabe, tzereden narishkeiten. A doctor is supposed to heal. The Rebbe once told the doctor, you can't heal something to another doctor. Don't give him piskei din. It's not your job. It's the shkanovi, it's the aroife. But this doctor told this chassid that kach v'kach. So he came to the Tzemach Tzedek, and Tzemach Tzedek told him to move to Eretz Yisrael. And it didn't give him to verstehen from us. Because it's a machlekes with the Beis Yosef and the Ramah if that illness that he has was a treifa. According to the Ramah, he was a treifa. According to Beis Yosef, he wasn't a treifa. So the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, and Eretz Yisrael is the Pesach to Beis Yosef. In Europe, they says, Ramah, go lift Eretz Yisrael, to Marach Yom Zayin, Favos, Val dort, bist nicht ka treifa. Und kach have. It's a nice story. It's a shayna ma'isa. That darf man kennen. You have to know the halacha first of all, and then you have to be kaveya. The mitzvah is based on what's written in Torah. It's a ma'isa from Tzemach Tzedek. Go live in Eretz Yisrael, because in Eretz Yisrael the Pesach is the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef says that your illness is not a treifa. It's the Marach Yom Zayin, and that's what happened. Okay, let's go back to the point. This chassid came to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he said to the Tzemach Tzedek, he wants to live in Eretz Yisrael. And I promise you, he didn't go to Eretz Yisrael because there were nice luxuries. He wanted to live in Eretz Yisrael because Amakam Kaddish. He wanted to be close to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the Tzemach Tzedek told him, Rabbi Hillel felt nicht ois Eretz Yisrael. Mach do Eretz Yisrael. That's the whole quote. Rabbi Hillel felt nicht ois Eretz Yisrael. Mach do Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Hillel was a chassid, a big chassid. He was Madregas Tzaddik. Rabbi Hillel Paritcher. So Tzemach Tzedek told him, Rabbi Hillel felt nicht ois Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Hillel is not missing Eretz Yisrael, so you shouldn't miss Eretz Yisrael either. Mach do Eretz Yisrael. So there's a lot of the yukim in this word. The first yik is, why didn't the Tzemach Tzedek say Mir felt nicht ois Eretz Yisrael? Why did he say Rabbi Hillel? Tzemach Tzedek should have said, if Chutz La'aretz is good for me, it's good for you. Why did he say Rabbi Hillel? And the answer is because the Rebbe was taken Eretz Yisrael. Wherever the Rebbe is, Eretz Yisrael. It's the Kedush HaKadoshim. There's no, the Helam V'Hester that Yidden feel in Chutz La'aretz by a Rebbe, by a Tzaddik, doesn't exist. But the Hillel wasn't a Rebbe. So the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, Rabbi Hillel Paritcher is also a big chassid. And he also wants to be close to the Eibishter. And he also knows Kedushas of Eretz Yisrael. And nevertheless, he's here because this is where his shlichus is. This is where his avodah is. This is what the Eibishter put him in this world. Like the famous Hayom Yom, Nidva do daf, nor avos daf madir, right? The chassid goes where he's needed. Nocham maimer amuzger, nocham ala niberais. So given a yitzig gehesed Leizer Nanis. There was a chassid whose name was Leizer Nanis, all of Shalom. Leizer Nanis lived 99 years. Bepel Mamish, he lived 99 years. He spent 20 years in the Gulag. 20 Jahre verschickt. The Rebbe asked him that he should write his biography. The stories are schrecklich. Schrecklich! A Jewish woman, a communist, wanted him to eat chametz on Pesach. So his wife sent him matzah, and she threw it in the garbage. A Yiddish Freu. And he would not eat chametz. He had sugar cubes in Wasser. He almost died from hunger, 8 days. And the last day of Pesach, that lady was standing over his bed, crying, feeding him spoonfuls of hot water. She realized she was going to teach him the Oislennen, you know. She threw away the matzah of Lesson Chametz because she thought, you know, Eretz von Yene, you know, if there won't be any matzah, no, but yeah, the Lesson Chametz. He almost died, and this woman realized that she killed him. And so she didn't eat. He was delirious. He wasn't even conscious fully. He would wake up and see her standing over the bed, the last Achei Pesach, and she was feeding him teaspoons of hot water, push it to keep him alive till the end of the Chag. Et das nach Stickel breit. Et gematet ze gefährlich. Reb Leisen Anis. The Rebbe told him that the 20 years that he spent in Siberia don't count. So he lived till 100. In other words, only 80. And by the way, to go through 20 years in Siberia and live 80 years is echet apele. But he lived till 99 and a half years old. He came from Russia in Tafshin Chavov, 1966, which was early, Lefiyerech. The doors of Russia opened slowly, you know. And he came to Israel, and he came to see the Rebbe. He was a mamash, a big chassid. He was a Talmud from Lubavitch. And he was 66 years old. He was born in Duntes, Ranat. So Chavav, he was 66, 67 years old, yeah? In his wildest dreams, he couldn't imagine he would live. A person lived 20 years in Siberia. The machine is broken. Wie lange het leben? He didn't think he's going to be Malach Yom. I mean, he never dreamed. So he came here, and the Rebbe said, I want you to live in Yerushalayim. So he said to the Rebbe, ich habe sehr viel gelitten, I suffered so much. And now I'm an old man. I don't know how much time I have left, you know what I'm saying? I want to be by the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said to him, and he writes it in his book. The new book, Ish Alay Nichna, there's stories in it that you don't have in the original book. Subota, Avram Netzach. This is an addition which was added later when he reprinted the Sefer in Lashon Kodesh, and over there he writes his name. When the book came out, Subota, it came out with a pseudonym. No one knows who Avram Netzach is. It's written in Yiddish. I read the book as a child. It's a Schreckliche Sefer. So the Rebbe said to him, a soldat geht nicht wo will, a soldat geht wo man schickt him. A soldier doesn't go where he wants to, a soldier goes where he is sent. And he adds, Lezer Nanes, that the Rebbe said it to him with such a toikif. The Rebbe said it to him so hard, so strong, that I haven't heard. It's Lashon HaKodesh, I'm translating. I hadn't heard a Rebbe speak with such a toikif since I heard that Ayatz Fabreng B'chayev of the Rashab. And I never heard a Rebbe talk so strong since I heard the Friedrich Rebbe when he Fabrenged, when he wasn't yet a Rebbe. Because a Rebbe wears masks. A Rebbe doesn't show you everything. Because if the Rebbe showed you everything, we'd all run away, but we'll get burnt. He says, I hadn't heard a Rebbe speak with such a teikif since I heard that Ayatz Fabreng B'chayev from the Rashab. That's how he was retired it. And he went to live in Israel, and he lived 35 more years. 35 more years. Anyway, this is a Maimon HaMuzgir. Rebbe Hillel was a big chassid. And the Tzemach Tzedek says to this other chassid, Rebbe Hillel felt Israel. Why? Because he has a shlichus here. Machda Eretz Yisrael. This is the quote. The Rebbe said this 1,000 times. Machda, make Eretz Yisrael here. Was meint Machda Eretz Yisrael? What does it mean Machda Eretz Yisrael? You have to live your life in the kind of a way that you can see the Eibishter more clearly. The definition of Eretz Yisrael is that you could see the Hashgacha of the Eibishter in a more revealed way. You have to live your life that in Chutz La'aretz you should see the Eibishter more readily. In other words, if a Yid lives the way Yid is supposed to live, he reveals the Eibishter. He doesn't necessarily reveal the Eibishter through a Nes. He reveals the Eibishter that he lives his life in the kind of way that you could see the Hashgacha of the Eibishter in his life more readily. And it's a Metzias, it's a Muchash de Kazach. Everybody knows this. That a person who lives with B'tachan the Emunah and the Eibishter sees the Eibishter more than a person who struggles with B'tachan and the Emunah. And that's the Taich Mach to Eretz Yisrael. Live your life in the kind of way that your life makes Eretz Yisrael. That your life makes, that you should see the Yada, the Hashem in Chutzlah, that's like another Yid sees in Eretz Yisrael. And this is going back to the foundational idea. This translates into the panos of a person, into the tzedakah that a person gives. We all have breidos, we have choices. And if we live our life in a way that we see that the Eibush is a balabas over our life, we will see that the Eibush is a balabas over our life.